I have been somewhat addicted to Sonic Racing Crossworlds for the last few weeks now, and the game is pretty good. I shouldn't really have to say it. Multiple other people have said it before, and they've done videos on it much more better than I could ever do in my lifetime. But I don't care. I want to talk about this game whether you like it or not. Okay, in all seriousness though, I really was anticipating for Sonic Racing Crossworlds ever since it was first announced. Or I guess not really, I was kind of just more on the skeptic side when it came to its initial announcement, but after seeing the premise of the game and all of the all the other factors from the DLC to everything else, I was really interested in seeing how it would all turn out. Especially more so after Mario Kart World's rather infamous reception. And after playing the game for quite a few weeks now, I can confidently say that this might just be one of my favorite racing games of this year. Probably not of all time, really, but the game does come very close on the same lengths as something like Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. So with that in mind, this video is just going to be me rambling on about the things that I liked about the game and some few aspects that I wish could be a little bit better. I'm not really sure if I can call this a review per se, because I typically don't do well with reviews in general when it comes to video making, but I guess you could treat this video more in the same vein as what I did for my Mario Kart World video, except it's not a first impression and more so just me getting my thoughts out on what I like about it and what I didn't like, all that sort of jazz. So without any further ado, let's just jump straight into the video and get racing, I guess. So the first thing I want to talk about with Sonic Racing Crossworlds is actually the gameplay. I typically try to go for the more interesting stuff out of the way, like the characters and tracks, but I wanted to save that a bit later because I wanted to talk about how I feel about the game in general with its gameplay style. Now, I did have my hand with this game when the closed betas started, and that was because I had a friend that had the closed beta, and I actually got to play the game a bit earlier. The gameplay was very strange. It kind of felt like a traditional kart racer, so it didn't really have the same sort of feel that I would expect from a different Sonic racing game, which obviously would be Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Regardless, the game itself does feel pretty good to control. It kind of feels a little awkward at first, like it feels a lot more looser or stiffer depending on your vehicle type. But really, it's just a matter of which car type fits your playstyle best, as well as the gadgets, which I will get into very shortly. Once you get that figured out, you'll find yourself being a little bit more comfortable with how the game actually flows. And alongside that, this game reintroduces the water and flight mechanic from Transformed, which I am very happy to see. I always liked this kind of idea from that game because it allows a lot more creative usage of the track's overall layout, and it also often implements set pieces that would otherwise be not exactly pulled off as well if it's just on land. So it's still very much present, but it does feel a little bit different. Well, at least the boat riding is. The flying one is nearly the exact same as it was before, but boat riding is a little bit different. As on top of drifting, once you let go of the drift button, you can just simply jump, which can allow you to get items or rings. I did feel a little awkward when I did it the first time because it wasn't traditional drifting. But after some time with it, I got used to it and it became second nature to just kind of treat it as drifting and to only jump when I absolutely needed to. Or to get a speed boost, but that's besides the point. So the overall core mechanics of this game is really good. And I also do like that there are other opportunities to utilize these skills and to improve upon them, such as making more sharper turns by letting go of the acceleration button, or more traditional things like finding shortcuts to decrease the amount of time you spend onto a track. Basic kart racing stuff. I will say though, the items can be a little bit, chaotic would be the best way to describe it. But the thing I do like about the item system about this game is the fact that you can counteract most of the items, if not, I think pretty much all of them. I really do like this way, as it really just makes it so that depending on the situation, if you have the right item, you can easily deflect them and continue on racing as if it was just normal. Granted, it's not likely to happen every time, but when the opportunity is presented, oh my god, it feels really nice to just deflect something that would have otherwise hindered you in the long run. Especially in regards to specific items, if you know, you know. Outside of the items, that's really all I have to say about the gameplay section. It's very good. I do want to also briefly go over the gadgets a bit because I did mention it beforehand. The gadgets themselves essentially act as an extension to your overall playstyle, and there are a lot of options to choose from, whether it ranges from more simple things like increasing your speed or handling, to giving you a boost item if you fall off a track, or increasing your ring count, which your rings will increase the speed the more it's collected, or to just spin your opponents away. There's just so much at hand, and allows for a lot of experimentation and to see which one fits your style the best. I personally like to have my charge speeds for drifting to be a bit faster, around 2 to 3, as well as having a max ring count of either 130 to 200. That's just my personal kit. You can experiment all of these on your own. It's great. The same can also be said for the card customization as well. Again, there's just a lot that goes on with this one that it almost puts Mario Kart 8's to shame. I really do like the customization for a lot of the cards and Extreme Gear. Oh yeah, Extreme Gear is also back, which was pretty cool. It actually took a bit of getting used to, but this one was my second used vehicle type. The first is handling. Anyway, yeah, that's enough of the customization. Let's talk about the stuff that I would have otherwise mentioned first, like the character roster. Now, the character roster is as standard as it can get for a Sonic racing game, but if we're going to compare it to the previous installment, Team Sonic Racing, then it is a much needed improvement, since in that game there were a few characters that were notably absent, such as Espio and Charmy and Cream. I'm also really happy to see the Babylon Rogues make an appearance in this game as well, since it's been quite some time since we last seen them. They're also a welcome addition to this roster, and the newcomers that we do have for this game are really interesting, I'll say. The Egg Pond is not really a character I ever really expected to be playable in any capacity, but it's a whatever addition. It's not something I'll lose sleep over just because it's there. While Zaz, on the other hand, is kind of a bizarre choice since the Deadly Six aren't the most well-liked Sonic characters. But I guess if you had to include one from the Deadly Six, I guess Zaz would be an option. He's at least entertaining in my personal opinion.
All this fancy tech is making my head spin. Just give me a ride and let me win. I'll wreck everything in my way.
And obviously, Sage is a very welcome addition after her positive reception in Sonic Frontiers. I really do just like her inclusion in general, and seeing her interact with characters like, Eggman and, interestingly enough, Silver is pretty cool to see.
Apologies, Father.
Nice shot, sweetie.
There is no Eggman Empire in my time. This is your chance to change your ways and become a force for good.
Your observation means I must work harder to ensure my father's vision becomes a reality.
This brings me to another aspect about the character roster that I really do like, and that's with the character interactions. The main story attraction to these sort of interactions comes from the rival dialogue that starts in the Grand Prix. It only happens in the first race, but seeing these characters interact with each other and giving up some sort of banter was really nice to see, especially when you pair these characters up with some of the other ones that really don't ever interact with each other at all in the first place. And it does lead to some pretty interesting results. Of course, there's some classic ones like Sonic vs. Shadow, and some pretty hilarious ones. But my personal favorite will always have to be when Vector gets smoked by Omega, and Vector is having none of it. Like, I might as well just play the clip right there because it's so fucking great.
Vector the Crocodile, lead detective at the Chaotix Detective Agency, unable to pay his bills, find a clue, or a date.
All right, you're asking for it. After I crush you in this race, I'll do all three.
Damn, Omega, you didn't really have to do that to my boy Vector, Jesus. Obviously, not all of the dialogue are pretty interesting or are substantial enough, but for what it is, it's a pretty neat addition to the game that I really do like. They'll also make comments towards the specific track that you're in as well. These can range from simple standard ones to some nods to previous Sonic games, including some deep cut references I really wasn't expecting to see at all in this game, such as how Silver comments on Sweet Mountain as a nod to Sonic Colors on the DS, where both Silver and Blaze appeared there.
I've been here with Blaze before.
There is one flaw to this though, and it actually relates to the next topic that I want to briefly go over. That's with the DLC characters. Starting from the positives, it's actually really cool just seeing these ones in general, especially the non-Sonic character ones, as this is what's possibly the closest we'll ever get to a return to form with Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Granted, as of this video's release, we only have Miku, Ichiban, and Joker, but we're expected to see a lot more characters, presumably mostly Sega ones, to appear sometime in the next few years, which I am really excited to see, especially for the rumored Knights appearance. It does make sense that Knights would at least be playable in this game since Knights and Sonic had some sort of history with each other, but I'm at least more happy to know that Knights is not going to look like a fucking abomination. Why the fuck did they make Knights look like this? But what's even more wild than these characters showing up is actually with the Seasonal Pass DLC, which has fucking SpongeBob! Never in my life would I ever see SpongeBob race against Sonic the Hedgehog, but you know what? I'm all for it, and he's bringing Patrick along with as well. That's really cool. Actually, the Season Pass itself is really interesting in and of itself. I mean, aside from SpongeBob, you also have some Minecraft characters, Mega Man, Pac-Man, Ninja Turtles, and Avatar. That is quite a lot of collaborations put into this. And not only do they include the characters themselves, but each pass includes one race course, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, also I have no idea where else to mention this, but pre-ordering the game will get you Werehog Sonic and this sick looking car. And I do know that the Sonic Prime characters are also in this game, presumably through the Season Pass, but I don't really remember exactly how you're able to get them, and truth be told, I could kinda care less about their inclusions, I'm sorry. But as cool as these characters' inclusions are, there is one drawback with this, and it's kind of a buzzkill for some people. You see, a majority of these characters simply do not have any voices. Which, on one hand, does make sense since it seems like a lot of work to just have every single character interact with each other, so it might be a bit more taxing as a result. Not to mention, you know, other collaboration efforts such as Nickelodeon, there could have been a lot more effort with the voice actors, you know, all that sort of jazz. But what really confuses me the most about this inclusion is the fact that even Sega characters and Sonic characters are also not voiced. I actually really didn't expect that. I would have at least assumed for the Prime ones they would have reused some lines from the respective actors. Not from Sonic Prime, of course, but you know, the general Sonic voice actors from the games. But I guess not. It really just makes things extremely awkward if you were to, say, play as Werehog Sonic, because you don't really get to hear him say anything. Instead, it's just sound effects from Unleashed. Great. Really, the only character that has any sort of voice is Miku herself. But to be honest, that's mostly because Miku has a voice bank, so it's pretty easy for her to make some sounds. As much of a bummer as it is that a lot of the characters aren't going to be voiced in any capacity, it's not going to be a complete detriment to the overall game as a whole. Is it disappointing? Yes, obviously. But this one little detail isn't going to completely ruin the entire experience for me, so in that instance, it's more of a thing that I'm going to at least begrudgingly accept and move on. Although Sega, I can't forgive you with this detail if you include my boys the Choo-Choos. Nah, not really, these guys are never coming back. That's all I have to say about the characters. Overall, the character roster is pretty good for the base game, and the DLC ones is shaping up to be a pretty interesting lineup. It all just kinda depends on how it turns out in the very end. I do kind of hope that the free DLC ones include some Sonic characters, but my bets are mostly going towards the Sega ones as the more likely candidates for these next few months. The tracks in Sonic Racing Crossworlds is honestly one of the more impressive ones I've seen from a kart racer. There is a good blend of both original tracks and tracks from the Sonic series that are present in this game. And not once did I ever feel like I preferred one side over the other, as I really did enjoy my time with most of the tracks in this. Whether it ranges from the simple yet energetic beginning of East Stadium, or the colorful atmosphere of Colorful Mall, the rocky intenseness of Crystal Mines, and oh my god, Pumpkin Mansion. I did not expect this one to be my general favorite as time went on, but I really love the way this track plays. It's just really great. And the music, I gotta hold off on the music for a second because I'm gonna talk about it later on, but just note that the theme of Pumpkin Mansion is my absolute favorite. And the Sonic locations themselves aren't too bad as well, like Metal Harbor, Radical Highway, Water Palace, Kronos Island. They're just so good. I really just enjoyed my time with a lot of the tracks in this game. Of course, this doesn't really extend as far with the DLC ones, but I will say the tracks do look a little more impressive. Obviously given, since these are crossover worlds, but you know. Speaking of, there is one aspect about Sonic Racing Crossworlds that I didn't really mention up to this point. The Crossworlds themselves. You see, every 2 laps you'll get an option to choose either a predestinational path or a random track. Either option will lead you to a completely different section of a lap too. Sometimes it'll range from just normal tracks together to completely brand new ones that are exclusive to just these Crossworlds alone. And what I really like about these Crossworlds is that they pull out sources from the most unexpected games. Like, never in my life would I expect there to be a track based on Sonic and the Secret Rings or Shadow the Hedgehog. Like, it's so impressive. Of course, there are also fairly standard ones as well, like Roulette Road from numerous Sonic racing games. And I do find it a bit interesting that there are 2 tracks based on Sonic Unleashed, alongside 2 normal courses also from Sonic Unleashed. Is this a coincidence? I guess it could be. There's even one track that's not based on anything from Sonic, but rather from a Sega arcade game. That's pretty cool, albeit a bit weird that it's the only non-Sonic track of the entirety of this lineup. Personally, I would have loved there to be a Knights-based one, but beggars can't be choosers. What I really like about these Crossworlds is that they don't ever feel like they overstay their welcome too much. And I really do appreciate that fact, since it allows me to really enjoy my time with these different worlds without ever feeling like I wanted there to be more than just that current state. I also really like the fact that Lap 3 is significantly different than Lap 1 as well, as you're not just plopped back to the same old racing experience. It's a really nice detail that they really didn't need to do, but it makes the stakes a lot more stronger, and I appreciate that as a result. So the first thing I want to go ahead and talk about with this section is with the visuals of the game, and it's pretty good. That's about the extent that I'm going to say about this, because I struggled so hard on how I'm able to describe how the game looks to me. I'm not good at describing visuals at all, so yeah, it's just really good. I do suppose certain tracks do speak out a lot more with the lighting and the way it all just looks and is textured, and I mean, the UI elements are also pretty neat. Yeah, that's all I have, I'm sorry. I will say this though, the game does kind of chug a little bit on the Xbox One, and you know, that's a shocker. I still own an Xbox One in 2025. Despite the occasional lag spike here and there, the game overall does run pretty well on Xbox One, and I can't really confirm anything on the Switch version because I assumed the Switch version wouldn't run much better. But from my observations, the optimization for this is somewhat subpar and is passable to an extent. It does make it extremely jarring when I actually got to play this on a PS5, and wow, it is leagues better than my crusty old Xbox One can offer. But putting that aside, I really am impressed with the amount of optimization that is presented with this one at the very least, and the visuals aren't exactly sacrificed. It still looks pretty good, even on older hardware. And as for the music, I mean, it goes without saying, but the music is an absolute bop to listen to. Most people know that most Sonic games usually have a pretty banger soundtrack already, but for this game, I've seen some discourse surrounding how the music might turn out, as some really weren't feeling it. And well, honestly, music in and of itself is pretty subjective at the end of the day, so what I say is not really reflective on anyone else's. I feel it's more important to really form your own opinions on really anything. But in my experience, the music for Crossworlds is pretty good. There have been some absolute jams to listen to within certain courses or even some of the menus themselves. In fact, most of the music that you're hearing throughout the entire video are some of my personal favorites in the entire game, or just really good to listen to no matter what, and I take that as an absolute win in my book. Lastly, I want to quickly go over the amount of content that this game does have. Obviously, there's some online play that I cannot show because I absolutely do not feel like giving Xbox my money for their online subscription, but I will comment on both time trials and the race park because I've had some interesting experiences with both of them. Starting with time trials, usually in a given game like this, I really wouldn't care much about the time trials themselves, but this game offers rewards for beating 3 time trials with an A rank or higher, and that's with the unlockable music albums that you can just play throughout the entire tracks if you so please. Not individually, of course, it's just the albums themselves, which is kinda lame, but whatever. And some of these time trials can be extremely tight in some instances, and this is just A rank alone. So for the time being, I'm pretty content with just A ranks and not going any further than that. But who knows, maybe that'll change someday and I'll just spiral into a descent of madness. And as for Race Park, I mean, it's fun, but it's not really something I'm willing to go through multiple hours for really anything. To be fair, this mode is much more preferable with friends or family, so it does a good job in that department. And the team-based modes are pretty fun for what it's worth. I personally do like bumping into other racers to get some extra boosts, and the ring challenge is pretty neat. I'm not a big fan of the extreme quick match though, it's just way too chaotic for me and I didn't really have that much fun with it, to be honest. Regardless of all what I said, it's a pretty good addition to the game, but not something that I'm going to be playing over for quite a bit. Although, I guess I probably might as well do it either way because the Donpa tickets are the bane of my existence. I think it's pretty clear to see that I am very much enthusiastic about this game, and really, why wouldn't I? The game has a stellar look to it, the character roster is shaping up to be one of the best that I've ever seen for a kart racer, the racetracks, both standard and Crossworld, are really fun to go through, the side content is plentiful, and overall, I just really love Sonic Racing Crossworlds. It is an absolute blast for me to go through, and like I said at the beginning of the video, it's one of my favorite racing games out there. So that being said, yeah, I'm very much impressed here. But I want to know what you guys think about this game. Do you think Racing Crossworlds is fun? Do you hate the game? Do you think that I'm stupid for making a video like this? Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, remember that Stu cares about you.
Sonic, you stupid werewolf.